What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning into Dot Slash. So I'm gonna kind of blast through this review slash install here because I'm gonna stop going through every single little detail of every distro and try to streamline things and cut down on the repetition. So today I'm going to talk about my favorite distro, which is Manjaro, combined with the distro that I'm asked about the most, and that's XFCE 4. So if you go over on Distro Watch, you'll see that Manjaro leads the pack by far according to the page hit ranking. Now, there's some controversy about the page hit ranking, how they can use bots and whatever to just, increase their page hits and bring themselves to the top. However, if you have a look at both of them, their ratings are 8.61 and 8.63. So Manjaro is 0.02 points below Linux Mint. And Linux Mint has 657 reviewers, while Manjaro has 708. So it has more reviewers, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is better, it is downloaded more, it is used more. However, on Twitter and on YouTube and whatnot, you can definitely see a trend of people using Manjaro a lot more. So I've got it running, I've got it set up and ready to run. I have an ISO plugged in, and I'm going to quickly load up the boot. So what's making it more popular is it's a rolling release, but it is checked for stability. So it's kind of it's almost like a hybrid in between Arch or rolling release and fixed release. So you go Arch and it's truly bleeding edge, and you can run into a lot of problems with updates. Manjaro's updates take those Arch updates, check for stability, and then bring it down the pipe. So you've got like a hybrid between a fixed release and a rolling release. It's a rolling release with stability in mind. So just loading up the ISO here, I'm going to quickly show you a few of the options. So you've got your time zone, your keyboard layout, your language, and what's important here for some users is driver. Now, if you're just using an onboard Intel or AMD GPU, then don't worry about it. If you don't plan on doing any gaming, you don't plan on using Nvidia, don't worry about it. However, if you are using Nvidia, especially if you're using Nvidia Optimus, this is important. You'd be tempted to go in here and pick non-free, which means proprietary Nvidia drivers. Do not do this, and I'll explain why later. So just stick with the free. I'm actually going to hit cancel and head down and boot into it. So there are some problems with installing the Nvidia drivers and ACPI, especially in laptops. ACPI causing errors, and you'll end up at the screen here that you're seeing now, and it'll just stop. Or you'll get to a full screen of just black screen and nothing happens. This is a problem with the way that the software is talking to the hardware, and I'll get to the workaround later. So this is the live USB desktop. So we're not installed yet, we're just running off of the ISO file. And you've got a nice little welcome screen with some documentation and links to forums and chat rooms. The Manjaro forum is actually quite good, and it's a little odd the way it's formatted, but once you get used to it, it's actually pretty good to use. At the bottom here, you've got your link to launch the installer. So I'm just going to quickly look in here in the terminal and show you guys quickly. Under top, we're running 417 megabytes of RAM, which is a little on the high side, but actually once it's installed on hardware, it's more like 380. So it is less than KDE and GNOME, but there is lower. If you're going to go with like an open box or something like that, you're definitely going to see less memory usage. Saying that though, XFCE still is very great for old hardware, especially if you have limited amount of cores and limited amount of RAM. Just make sure you've set yourself up, if you're limited RAM, a good size partition for a swap. So I'm going to quickly go through the installer. It is Calamari's, and I'm not going to actually install, and mine's going to complain now that I'm not connected to the internet, but just next. time zone, all your typical stuff, keyboard layout, and drive. So I've actually already got it installed, but the Calamares partition manager here is really good. Replace, erase. I don't see what the difference is here, but oh, I just had a crash. So let me just launch that again. So don't play in the installer, just do your thing and move along. If you have something different installed on here, there's also an option to install alongside. And if you have multiple drives, they're going to be listed in here. So manual partitioning lets you manually edit and add and remove partitions and set where they're going to be mounted and whatnot. So I'm going to go back. I'm actually going to cancel this, and I'm going to boot into the full installation. So now I'm booting into the full installation here. The install took about 7 minutes on a mechanical hard drive in a virtual machine. So it takes a little while, but you know what? It is a 1.7 gigabyte ISO. So Calamares is also known for being a little slower than other installation methods. So we're up and running now. So let me just open up the terminal again, and I'll show you. We're using 383 megabytes of RAM, so that's not too bad. 379, yep, good enough. And let's just have a look. The kernel is 4.14.65, so fairly new kernel for 4.14. There's also options in Manjaro to easily change the kernel. As you can see, I actually have a pop-up here in the corner saying that a new kernel is available. Please update. This is the updater. It shows up in the system tray here. So click on kernel, and there we go. So opens up, and let me just once again zoom in. So you can see you've got all the different kernels up to the very experimental 4.19. I would not recommend this. Basically, the one that says recommended, just use it and stick with it. I mean, yes, there's a new LTS and whatnot, but just keep whatever is currently installed. So let me just close this. Unless you know what you're doing, don't start changing kernel versions. If you're having hardware issues and you find something online that has your specific computer and it recommends running a specific kernel version in Manjaro, go ahead and give it a shot. But other than that, you're getting into some experimental stuff where if you don't know what you're doing, you can end up with a system that doesn't boot. There are ways to get around it, but that's too much to cover for this little video here. So I talked about before the installation running off of the free drivers, the open source Nouveau drivers. Now, if you do have an Nvidia GPU, especially if you have Optimus, you're definitely going to want to do this before you install any Nvidia drivers. You're going to want to open up a terminal. You're going to go sudo nano etc default grub. So we're going to edit the grub file. Again, if you don't know what you're doing, don't do this. But if you're running Nvidia and you, especially when you're booting up your computer, you get a splash screen at the beginning in the corner that says some ACPI errors, you're definitely going to want to do this. So in your grub config, you're going to want to find this line. It is grub command line Linux default, and it'll have quiet in it. So at the end of this line, there's a double quote. So within the double quote, you're going to do space ACPI underscore OSI equals exclamation mark space. And again, ACPI underscore OSI equals single quote Windows with a capital W space 2009 single quote. So it'll end with a single quote and a double quote. Very important. I've shown this in many of my videos, but a lot of people complain that they can't boot. They get a frozen screen, they get a black screen, and that's after they install Nvidia drivers. This is why. And this is why I keep repeating myself in all my videos about installing this. If you have just an Intel GPU or you have an AMD or whatever, you don't have to do this. But if you're having booting issues, try this and it'll probably fix you. So to save this, you're going to do Control O, Enter, Control X. Then you're going to do a sudo update, come on, update grub, and it's going to update your grub configuration file. It's going to add those ACPI OSI options to the kernel options on default when you boot up. So now you're going to reboot, and then you're going to install your Nvidia drivers. So to install the Nvidia drivers, sorry, I'm switching to the host. So you're going to go to Google, type Manjaro, Bumblebee, and it's the very first one. It's wikimanjaro.org. Click here and follow along. It's basically this command here, sudo da. You're going to copy and paste that into your terminal, hit enter. It'll probably prompt you for your admin password. Then you're going to reboot, and then that's it. You're done. You're all set up. So I'll get to the rest of the Nvidia stuff after, but for now, let's just carry on with the virtual machine. So I'll cover a little bit more of the Nvidia stuff and a trick that you can do to see if it's working a little later in the video. Right now, I just want to go over XFCE itself. So being that it is Manjaro, you've got some of the latest of everything, including XFCE. Now, I don't want to go over XFCE itself because you can go over on any distro and any review. If you've seen an XFCE review, you've seen them all. Same with the installed software. There isn't a ton installed here, right? So accessories, education, games, it has the Steam launcher already installed. It has GIMP 2.10, of course, because being Manjaro, again, you've got some of the latest software available. Internet, Firefox, which is Quantum 6.1, but you get an update right away for Quantum 6.2. So as soon as you do your first update, you're up to the latest software. Skype Online, I'm not a fan of Skype, but it is there. Thunderbird and multimedia, you've got VLC, Audacious, and of course LibreOffice 6. My virtual machine is not running on all cores, literally, so that's why it's running a little bit slower. I should have set it for all 8 cores or something, but regardless. So the biggest thing with Manjaro specifically is the package manager. So here you've got your add remove software. This is Pacman, which is a front end for Pacman, which runs in the terminal. Now, when you first run this, you may end up with blank. You'll get nothing in here. There's nothing showing. You'll have to click on updates and actually do the updates, because sometimes it needs to just resynchronize with the repos. It needs to update keys. It has to do whatever. So you're going to click on updates. These are all your updates, and you're going to hit apply, enter your password, and then you can click details and watch it do all of its updates. Not going to do it right now, but there is another trick you can do as well if you want to synchronize. Pacman in the terminal is not as easy as using apt or some of the other package managers, just because the switches aren't as clear. Like, it's not like apt install, apt update, apt upgrade. So you're going to do a sudo pacman -S y. So this will update your repositories. And SYU will update and upgrade your packages. SS would be to search. So I want to search for get it. And if you do just S, like that, it's going to want to install it. So the switches is something that you'll have to get used to. And once you're used to it, it's super easy. And don't be afraid of having to learn this code, because it's literally like 3 or 4 different switches that you have to learn. So it's not really that big of a deal. And if you're more comfortable, stick with the GUI. That's fine too. That works really great. So the other thing about software in Manjaro is the Arch user repository. By default, it is not enabled. So you're going to open up your package manager, Pacman. You click here and go to Preferences. It's going to ask you for your password. Enter that in. And in your settings here, the AUR tab, by default, this is turned off. I've turned it on, and so I will be able to search the AUR. The AUR is, and I've discussed this as well in other videos, is the Arch user repository. It is a repository where anyone can put packages and make it available to anyone else using Arch or Arch-based distros. So you have to be a little bit careful because there is a slight chance that someone can put some type of malware or something in the AUR for others to download, but it's usually caught pretty quickly. So if you want to search for something in the repos, or you're just searching for something in general and it happens to not be available in the standard repos, like for example Meow. Meow is something that I use in GNOME to rearrange the applications menu. You can see when it searched the repositories first, and when no package was found, then it searched the AUR. And you can see it's available here. There is a popularity rating here. I wouldn't put a lot of thought into what the rating is. I mean, if it's a 0, maybe be a little bit more suspicious, but honestly, I've installed this and used it in Manjaro GNOME, and there's no problems. So you can right-click it and look at details, which will show links to their GitHub and who the maintainer is and what the dependencies are for it. And then it's just a matter of click it, apply, enter in your password, and commit, enter in your password. And then you can click on details and you can watch it do its thing, download and compile and whatever it needs to do. And then it's done, and then it's installed. So that's a huge, huge benefit to Manjaro being the Arch-based distro it is it has the Arch user repository. So a lot of tools that maybe aren't available by Arch, by Manjaro, but the people have created themselves will be made available to anybody. So that is the package manager. That is essentially the distro that I want to show. Not taking a whole lot into account for XFCE itself. An XFCE review is just like any other XFCE review. This one, of course, has the Manjaro theming with the green and this and that, but the reviews I find for me are starting to get a little repetitive and a little stale, to be honest. So I thought I'm just going to bash through them here and give you an idea of how they're different and what's included and what's not. So I think from this point on, what's going to be something that stands out of a distro is going to be the things that I focus on at this point, because going through every single thing, like, it has this clipboard manager, this calculator, it has a user guide, a menu editor, and mouse pad, going through every single thing, unless it has like things that really stand out. Like I did Netrunner recently, and I was very impressed with the amount of software that came with it and the amount of good software that it came out with. So I actually did go through every single little thing. But like Pigeon Internet Messenger and things like that, I'm not going to go through all of this stuff one by one. I'm not going to go through all the wallpapers one at a time. If you want to see what the wallpapers are, like, you download your own wallpapers, right? I download my own wallpapers. Whatever software is not included, you can install it. I use Manjaro, and there's nothing that I don't have. There's nothing that I can't get. Even if it's not in the official repos, it's probably in the Arch user repos. I get what I want, and I'm pretty happy with that. So now, quick trick if you're using XFCE, any XFCE distro, not just Manjaro. Specifically, after you've done this little trick of sudo m hardware and you rebooted, now your Bumblebee should be working. What I do in GNOME is I have this little GNOME extension down here that shows me when I'm using my Nvidia GPU, and it also shows the temperature. I've demonstrated this before. GLX gears, it'll of course show up on my other screen because it always does. And you can see here in the bottom right, it's going to change to the temperature. Now this is a GNOME thing, as I said. So you see it's showing 43 degrees. And I can close this and it'll switch back to off. You don't have this option in XFCE because you can't install GNOME extensions. However, what you can do, I'll just zoom this in and open up a new terminal. You can do watch cat proc ACPI BB switch. So what this is going to do is that the watch command is going to run this cat command every 2 seconds. So we're going to go in here, and because everything is a file in Linux, this BB switch shows you your device ID and the state that it's in. So this is the Nvidia GPU essentially, and it's off. So now if I go opt to run GLX gears, and this is with any game, by the way, and you can see it's switched to on. And you can see, if I can drag it over again, it's running, right? So it changed to on. And it's showing frame rates. So now if I close it, it'll switch to off. Again, every 2 seconds, so wait for it. There you go. So if you're using XFCE, that is one way to know if it is running or not. So GLX Gears is just a little demo, but you can also opt to run Kden Live. You can opt to run Blender. You can opt to run whatever you want to use your Nvidia GPU, including games. Let me just mute my volume. Sorry about that. What about Steam? Well, in Steam, I've shown this as well. I've demonstrated it in other videos. In your games list, if you right-click, go to Properties and Launch Options, just make sure to put here opt to run space %command %. Hit OK, hit close, and now when you play your game, Steam will run it as the Nvidia GPU. It will automatically use opt to run to launch your game and run it on your Nvidia. So again, you can use this to verify if it turns on or not, but if you're running full screen, then you might have to alt tab and whatnot. So okay, anyways. So that's it for Manjaro XFCE. I know it's a bit of a different kind of review, but I'm kind of, wanting to stray away from repetition and whatnot. So let me know what you think. I'm trying to avoid going through every single individual piece of software. I don't want to go through every single option unless it's a new version. A new version of a DE comes out and it has new features, or a distro has something that specifically stands out. That is the types of things that I want to focus on. I don't want to go through the entire thing with, a fine-tooth comb. So let me know what you think of kind of a rush through and give you a general idea of the distro versus going through every single little detail. Do you like the details? Do you prefer skipping the details and just seeing what's different about it compared to others? Anyways, let me know in the comments down below, and let me know if you use Manjaro XFCE. Also, do you use the Nvidia drivers, and has any of my videos helped you with Nvidia drivers? Did your system require the ACPI OSI tricks? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share especially, and don't forget to subscribe. I would like to thank quickly my executive producer Nuno, as well as Carlos Arknos, Carl George, Matt, Kip Says, and Ronald. Thank you guys so much for contributing. You guys help make this channel possible. If you would like to help contribute to my channel, head on over to patreon.com/Dorian./. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Until next time, bash on.